Hello, welcome. I'll give this a few seconds to get going. Takes a minute for the various streams to get started. But let's see. 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh my God, we're going to blast off. It's going to be crazy. Hello, and welcome to a Moment of Clarity. I've titled this episode, The Name That Must Not Be Spoken. And that name is, of course, Julian Assange. And the reason it must not be spoken is because if I put that name in the title, then this video will get shown to or displayed to far fewer people on Facebook, on Twitter. I'm going to get into some of the details of that suppression. The suppression against anything with Julian Assange in the name, in the title, in the description is getting increasingly aggressive because we now know that our big tech platforms such as Facebook and Google and YouTube and Twitter are, essentially state-run, or at least in bed with the state. And the state does not want this trial hearing with Julian Assange right now getting out to you. They don't want you to know about it. They don't want you to know about this kangaroo court that's going on in the UK in a minute. So I'm going to get into the details about that in a second. About the suppression, also about what's been happening within the trial against Julian Assange. There's a lot of fascinating, interesting details that are coming out that continue to show what a sham trial this is and how pathetic it is. But also later in this episode, in this live stream episode, I'm going to get into how the Democrats actually control Trump's Supreme Court justice pick. How they actually have the power to stop it, and they're not going to use that power. And I know that's different than everything you've been hearing on your mainstream media, but I will get into those details in a few minutes. But let's start off with what's going on in the Julian Assange trial, and please share this. Don't use Assange in the title if you want it to actually be shown to people. But please share this video so we can have people get in here and talk about this with us. But so the suppression, and here's the evidence that Assange and his trial are being suppressed in more ways than they used to be. I used to post videos on Julian Assange, an update of his situation, his arrest, etc., and they would get tens of thousands, if not more, views on YouTube and Facebook, etc. And now it's a trickle of that. And sure, we could do the self-deprecating thing and say, "Oh, Lee, it's just because you started sucking." Yeah, that's it. But actually, there's more evidence than that. For one thing, my email list, when I do it out through MailChimp, you can do an A/B testing of titles, and you can see who's clicking. How many people are clicking on a various title. So it'll be sent. The better title will be sent to more people. And I've done that test on emails that have gone out to tens of thousands of people, and on two separate accounts, MailChimp accounts. And it found that despite the fact that Assange is a very popular topic, because a lot of you that watch my stuff and are interested in similar stuff tend to care about what's going on with Julian Assange and this persecution of a journalist, and persecution of one of the most important journalists that we've seen in decades, maybe in a generation. Despite the fact that you find that interesting, and I know that, the title that actually won the A/B testing in both cases on both accounts with tens of thousands of people checking these emails was the one that did not have Assange in the title. It said Julian's trial instead of Assange's trial. And Julian is a less suppressed term because obviously you could be talking about your friend Julian, whereas Julian Assange, I don't think anyone else has that name, or at least not many. So it proves that the title emails with Assange in the title are being put into spam filters. Google is helping to suppress those. And most people don't check their spam filters. Most people are not going through old emails to see what's been placed in their junk mail, because Google has tricked us into thinking that they always know what is junk mail, and they will put that junk mail in your spam filter for you. And it's not just Google. Some of you have other email accounts. I realize that. But they've gotten us all to believe, well, Gmail and Google, they always know. They always know what you're looking for on your searches. They always know what's best for your email accounts. And so they throw it in to your spam filter, and you never check it. You never see it. And they're doing that with things that have Assange in the title. Now, I'll give you another example of how this is proof that the Assange trial is being suppressed. And, you know, another one is obviously like if I post with Assange in the name on Facebook, it's going to get a tiny number of the views that something without Assange in the title would get on Facebook. But here's more evidence. Craig Murray, and this also gives you an outlet to check out. Craig Murray is a former UK ambassador. He's also been given one of the few allowances to be in the courtroom with Julian Assange, to be one of the viewers in the balcony in the courtroom in London during this trial. And Craig Murray he's been doing great coverage. You should check it out. He's a friend of Assange's, and he's been doing really legitimate, wonderful journalism on what's been going on in this trial. Detailed stuff, details that I am not as informed on, nor am I going to spend the time on a lot of those details. Although I will get into some of them in a moment. But Craig Murray has mentioned that, despite the fact that, again, he knows his viewers, he knows who likes his stuff, and many of them want to learn about Julian Assange and about his trial. He has found that his blog, it's craigmurray.org.uk, so you can go over there and subscribe. He has found that his blog, despite the fact that now is the time, right now, Assange's trial is going on right now. You'd think that this is someone whose viewers want to hear about this. His viewership should be blowing up. He has said that the number of views to his blog coming from Facebook and Twitter has disintegrated. It's gone from hundreds of thousands of views coming from those sources, platforms like Facebook and Twitter, to a tiny portion of that, less than 10,000 coming from those outlets. And this is clearly because they are involved in a full frontal oppression and suppression of anything that has to do with Assange or this trial. So there's another example of how you can prove that this is being suppressed. That's what's going on in this kangaroo court, ridiculous show trial of Julian Assange is being suppressed. They don't want you to know about it. They don't want you to talk about it. And here's another example is Alan McLeod wrote at Mint Press. You should go over there and check out this article if you feel like it, about how terribly the mainstream media has done on covering Assange. They've barely covered him at all. I saw some NBC News coverage, but it was about his Assange's partner, Stella Morris, and how they have two kids together, two young kids. And I'm glad they covered that. But that is a tiny portion of what is going on here. That is the, People magazine celebrity, what did Kim Kardashian wear kind of story about the Assange trial. What is Assange wearing to his trial? Who are you wearing, Julian Assange? Oh, he's wearing a Tic Tac container that they put him in. He's wearing a plastic fucking glass jar that they have him locked up in because they don't know if he might spring out and reveal something true at any moment. So, yeah, I'd love to see that. The red carpet Assange trial coverage. Who are you wearing, Mr. Assange? Oh, I'm wearing plexiglass because they won't let me out of a fucking plastic jar in the courtroom because I'm so dangerous. I'm worse than Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter just had a mask over his face. This guy's in a goddamn jar. Anyway, they've done such as Alan McLeod reveals in Mint Press, and he's done more extensive research on how much these mainstream media have covered Assange. It's minimal. It's almost nothing. That he is that is being covered on NBC News or CBS or MSNBC or CNN or Fox News. It is a basic blackout of the Julian Assange trial. And you can find, I'm not saying you can't find anything. You'll probably someone could go type up CNN and Assange and find an article about it, but it's a tiny fraction of what should be covered. I mean, this is the largest attack on press freedom that we've ever seen in terms of the precedent it sets. Going after a foreign journalist under the Espionage Act is laughable. But so now I wanted to get into some of the details. And by the way, please share this so we can have more people join us. But let's get into some of the details about what's going on in the Assange trial. There is so there was a large debate about his mental health in the trial, And one of the things was that they were basically arguing whether Assange might be suicidal if he were to find out he's being extradited to the U.S. And one of the things they were putting forward was that apparently, he has been depressed, severely depressed at times, and because he's basically being tortured and, in solitary confinement in Belmarsh prison. But they guards found a razor blade hidden in his belongings, and it ends up in this back and forth with the prosecution saying, "Oh no, you can't prove that a razor blade was found," and I'll let, if you want to go back and read the transcript, you can fucking deal with that yourself, or go through that yourself. But can we just talk about how disgusting it is that that's even a factor in this? That's if he's going to kill himself, then he won't be extradited for something for the crime of revealing everything absolutely true, revealing the war crimes of the empire. That only if they think he might be willing to kill himself would he not be extradited. Why is that? I mean, the level of lack of moral core you have to get to make that the discussion is just so pathetic. And this courtroom is so gone from reality. This kangaroo court, this show trial is so detached from reality that they're literally sitting there arguing, well, he might kill himself. He might not. Yeah, I don't know. Like, that is their discussion of a journalist that is being persecuted for revealing the truth. I mean, it's just amazing it's even gotten to that point. But let's get into also how everything has now been rushed. The judge who has basically been siding with the prosecution throughout the thing. She's a clown, empire pro-imperial judge whose her whole purpose there is to make sure that Assange is punished for revealing the truth about these empires. She, as a review, she said that this needs to all wrap up by next week, which completely minimizes the amount of information that the defense can get forward. They have been cut for. At first, she said that their time was going to be cut to almost nothing, and then they ultimately argued to just get a half an hour with the witnesses, which you're supposed to have as much time as you want with witnesses. But she said, okay, we'll limit every witness to half an hour. And so then they go through and they're dealing with each witness. And then this past week, she said, okay, we're going to wrap up by next week, which they know means they're not going to get to all their witnesses. So they've begun cutting off witnesses that you're not going to hear from, like Noam Chomsky, because they don't have time. And so the judge is rushing everything to force the defense to not be able to put up a legitimate, hearty defense. And so on one hand, she's saying, oh, we're in this crazy rush. You have to rush. No time. There's no time to actually hear from these witnesses. You got to get through it all. And then on the other hand, she said there won't be a decision until 2021. So on one hand, oh my God, there's no time to hear the defense. And then on the other hand, but I'm not going to give you a decision on this extradition until 2021. It's like they're doing both things. And the other thing the rush does is that the defense hasn't even gotten to the superseding indictments, which are these indictments that were thrown in. It's apparently unprecedented to throw in superseding indictments this late in the game, but they were thrown in just a few days before this trial began, and the defense didn't have a proper amount of time to deal with them and to prepare for them. And so now they're in the situation where we haven't heard from any witnesses dealing with the superseding indictments, basically. And this was by design. This was part of the scam to make sure that the defense could not properly prepare for defending Julian Assange. They're doing the. Most people seem to say they've been doing their best, but it is all designed against them. This is all set up. It's a show trial to make sure and ensure. I like that. Yes, my words are with me today. To make sure and ensure. To ensure that Julian Assange is extradited and basically tortured in the United States for, whatever. He's facing 175 years. On the final thing on Assange, I want to get into some of the details of what was revealed about, one of the things in the indictments that they're accusing him of is revealing these unredacted State Department cables, which they say reveals sources and, top secret agents and things like that. These unredacted State Department cables, which now in the trial, what becomes clear, which the government doesn't want you to know, is that WikiLeaks, as they were revealing these State Department cables, was actually redacting them. They were covering up the names of sensitive sources. In order to protect those sources, they were not revealing the unredacted version. The unredacted version of the State Department cables was under an encrypted, it was encrypted it was connected to the website. The files were connected to the WikiLeaks website, but they were encrypted. So only a tiny number of people, possibly only Assange and the Guardian journalists he was working with, had that encryption key to reveal the unredacted version of those State Department cables. And the journalists that Assange was working with were David Lee and Luke Harding, these Guardian journalists. One of them was the editor. David Lee was the editor of investigations at the Guardian. And WikiLeaks does not give out the unredacted State Department cables. But David Lee publishes a book in 2011, I think, or 2012, where he thinks that the encryption key isn't useful anymore or something. And so he actually publishes it in his book about Assange. And he makes one of the chapter titles the encryption key. So at that moment, the moment David Lee's book comes out, this is a Guardian fucking journalist, not Assange, not WikiLeaks. The moment that book comes out with the encryption key, people can then get into the State Department unredacted cables. And that's how the sources are revealed. So the government is going after Julian Assange for revealing something that he didn't reveal, that actually David Lee at the Guardian revealed. And so then they try to press some of these security experts on, well, why were the encrypted files still on the WikiLeaks website? Why didn't they shut that down? And the experts said, well, WikiLeaks, when they were under attack, they were under a DDoS attack, had asked other people to mirror their website so that their website could continue to be up in a variety of places around the internet. Apparently, this is standard when you're under a DDoS attack to ask others to mirror your website. Now, mirroring creates an exact duplicate of the website. So what that did was that created exact duplicates of WikiLeaks around the internet, various places, and that exact copy had the encrypted files because they were attached to they were part of the WikiLeaks website, but they're still encrypted. No one can view them without the key. So when this key is published in David Lee's book, it is then available for those who have mirrored the website. So even if WikiLeaks took down their version of the encrypted files, the other versions are still out there on the mirrored website. So after the unredacted files had already been published in places like Cryptome and some others, so they're already out. It's already free in the internet. It's a lost cause at that point. After that, WikiLeaks publishes the unredacted cables because they were already out. At that point, WikiLeaks can't hide them because it's impossible. So it goes completely against everything that our government, that the UK government is trying to prove against Julian Assange. They're trying to say he published the unredacted cables, but he didn't. They only published them after they were already out. And this is yet another reason that the government, our government, the ruling elite do not want you to be paying attention to this trial. They do not want you to know the truth behind Julian Assange and WikiLeaks because it is terrible for the falsehoods that they have put forward. And it also goes to show that they have not gone after these Guardian journalists, David Lee and Luke Harding. They have not gone after these other sites that mirrored the WikiLeaks site and published these cables first. So really, they have only gone after Julian Assange to set an example of him. Another thing is, if you look at Leon Panetta's quote, actually Panetta has revealed the truth behind this, which is that their whole goal is to just make an example of Julian Assange, no matter what the truth is, no matter whether he has done anything illegal, so that others don't publish government secrets, so that others don't reveal how our empire works. That's their goal. And Panetta has revealed that in his quote. If you look up his quote, you can see that. So, all of this should prove the innocence of Julian Assange. All of this should go towards getting him released and free. I mentioned before on another episode how world leaders have come forward in defense of Julian Assange recently, and that was a big step. And all of this should result in a real world, in a legit, logical, and sympathetic and ethical world. This would result in Julian Assange's freedom immediately. But instead, we live in this show trial empire run fucking charade, a comedy show far greater than I could ever have hoped to create. And they are hoping you don't pay attention to it. And so everything that I'm talking about, all of these sources that are speaking about this, great journalists doing great work, all of it's being as heavily suppressed as possible. If I were to try and email this video out to my subscribers and title it, truth about the Assange trial, new details about the Assange trial, it will be suppressed. It will be put in the spam filters of the vast majority of that group. YouTube won't send this to subscribers and let them know there's a new video. Now, some of you might be getting this, but like I said at the beginning, you are the lucky ones. You are the few. And maybe more are seeing this right now because I didn't title it about Julian Assange. I titled it he who must not be mentioned. So the Facebook algorithm probably doesn't yet know this is about Assange, and therefore it is slightly less suppressed. But my channel is suppressed in general, so it's not just titles that matter. I want to get to another topic here real quick before we wrap up, and that is this Supreme Court pick that the entire nation is flipping out about. I've talked about some other aspects of it before, but this is a new aspect. This is the fact that the Democrats actually have the ability to stop Trump's Supreme Court pick. And they won't. They won't do it, and they won't even talk about this possibility. They will run around right now with their hair on fire, trying to vote shame anyone who didn't vote for Hillary Clinton, trying to vote shame anyone who voted for Jill Stein or voted for someone else or didn't show up to the polls. They're going to run around right now vote shaming anyone who's considering not voting for Joe Biden, anyone who at any point has been critical of anything the DNC or the Democrats have done. That is their goal right now during this Supreme Court pick that Trump is trying to ram through before the election. But what they don't want to mention is that you can read the details of this on David Swanson's blog. David Swanson's a well-known author. He writes mainly about anti-war, matters of war and peace. But he puts forward that in the Constitution, if impeachment is brought up, impeachment charges are brought up in Congress, then that supersedes all other business. All of the business must stop until the impeachment is dealt with. And we saw that with the, ridiculous Ukraine Gate show trial impeachment that they attempted earlier this year. And so apparently, according to David Swanson, and I think he's correct, that if impeachment were to be brought up right now on other charges, it would have to be dealt with, and therefore they could not ram through the Supreme Court nominee. Now, who brings up the initial impeachment charges? It's the House. The House of Representatives is in charge of bringing in the charges, and then the trial, the impeachment trials in front of the Senate. I think I have that correct. So the House, which is run by the Democrats right now, there are more Democrats than Republicans, is run by the Democrats. They could bring impeachment charges against Trump. And as I said during the whole impeachment process that already happened, if they just brought it for the legitimate things Trump has done, highly illegal stuff, war crimes, bombing innocent civilians, the emoluments clause, heavily enriching himself for the presidency, there are so many things they could right now bring impeachment against Trump. So many charges that would be legitimate. But they won't. The Democrats won't, because they are equally corrupted on almost all of those fronts. They are possibly farther to the right on issues of bombing innocent civilians and our war crimes around the world than Donald Trump is in a lot of ways. They enrich themselves with the presidency. Obama, the moment he got out of office, went and gave a $400,000 speech for 1 hour in front of Wall Street. Now, I know you can claim, he was out of office, but, Fuck you. He's enriching himself with the presidency. They do it in a variety of other ways. They enrich themselves with their offices, and it's not just the presidency. All of these Democrats, along with almost all of the Republicans, I'll say almost all the Democrats, along with almost all the Republicans, enrich themselves with these offices. And some of them don't even don't even try and cover it up. A lot of them are involved in insider trading. We saw that with the pandemic. They knew back in January the pandemic was coming. A lot of them dumped stock and switched to other stock, like stocks in big pharma and stuff like that they knew would do well during a pandemic, and dumped out of other stock they knew would do poorly during a pandemic. And that happened to several congressional members, and we've now found all those charges are dropped. All the accusations have been just given up on charging those people. So these people enrich themselves with their offices. And so they don't want to go after Trump for that because they do it. And they don't want to go after Trump for his war crimes because they do it, or they vote for it, or they support it on every level. The CIA-backed coups around the world. The economic sanctions that have killed roughly 100,000 in Venezuela alone just in the past few years. The economic sanctions that kill Iranians. The stopping medicines from getting there. All of that is done and supported by the Democrats and the Republicans. So they won't actually bring legitimate impeachment charges against Donald Trump, which they could do right now in the House of Representatives and stop Trump's Supreme Court justice pick. So there you go. While all of these people run around trying to vote shame you for not supporting Hillary Clinton, a war criminal herself, or not supporting Joe Biden, another war criminal, or who also helped write the Patriot Act, as he bragged about, the unlimited surveillance of American citizens, who created a criminal justice system that has locked up one out of every 3 black men. It doubled the prison population, created the largest prison state in the world here in the United States. As they vote shame you for not running around and cheering for those people, just remember, and you can let your friends know, the Democrats actually could stop this Supreme Court justice pick. They easily could. All it would require is for them to have some sort of fucking moral backbone and actually stand up against war crimes, against economic crimes, against CIA-backed coups, against the obliteration of so many lives around the world. That's all they'd have to do. But they can't, because they're equally corrupted. They're equally morally bankrupt. And so they won't. They won't do that. They won't stop the Supreme Court pick. And then they'll run around yelling at you because you saw through it all, because you saw through the puzzle, because you saw through the spectacle that they fucking shine in front of your face to say, here's how, don't pay attention to that, pay attention to this, look right here. You saw through it all. Hell, they could impeach him for not doing anything about climate change as people in California are on fire, as people in the Gulf Coast drown, as people across this country don't know what to do because of drought, because their businesses are collapsing, because the farms are collapsing. They could impeach him for that. But they can't, because they're equally corrupted and equally responsible. So just remember, as you're being vote shamed, as I'm sure is happening right now on all your social media platforms. So please share this, because as I said, it's all incredibly suppressed. They don't want you to know this stuff. They don't want you to be talking about Julian Assange and so many other things. Also, most importantly, because of all the suppression, go to leecamp.com. You can check it every day. I do these videos almost every single day, except sometimes. And so you can get it all at leecamp.com. Just check it every morning, leecamp.com. You'll get new videos, new podcasts. I have 2 podcasts, Government Censored and Government Secrets and Common Censored. Those are 2 separate podcasts. I hope you check out. But yeah, please share it and keep fighting.